Hey, sports card collectors and investors. I hope that everybody is having a great weekend. Before I get started, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We now have, I believe, 110 videos on the channel, all about collectibles investing and sports card investing mainly. We've kind of seg off into different topics on occasion, but for the most part, we're talking a lot about sports card investing on this channel, and now we're up to 110 videos, believe it or not. And we're not even 3 months in to this channel being in existence. So exciting times for sure. Today I'm going to be talking about whether or not it is a buyer's market or a seller's market when it comes to sports card investments. And so the short answer to this is it depends. And the reason why I say it depends is because it really depends on which type of sports cards you're collecting or investing in. And also, when did you get into the market? I mean, if you are someone that's been collecting or investing sports cards for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years, then you're probably saying this is a seller's market all day, every day, because for a lot of players, not every player, but for a lot of players, pricing has gone way, way up. And I think that a lot of people, I've heard different stories about cardboard millionaires, and I get it. I mean, if you were buying graded sports cards, raw sports cards as well, but I mean, if you're buying graded sports cards and you have a huge Michael Jordan collection or LeBron collection, any of these players that are kind of on the forefront, forget about the Luka and the Zions, and some of the newer players that everyone is excited about, the baseball prospects, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if you had, a lot of these all-time great players and not even higher end cards. I mean, if you look at just where, base rookie cards have gone for Michael Jordan's not a good example because, his rookie card, he only has a base rookie card, the 86 Fleer. He's got the, the sticker as well, but, his 86 Fleer is at an all-time high right now. It's settled a little bit, it looks like, over the last couple of weeks, but I mean, if you're looking at LeBron James in particular, he's got, his Topps Chrome, rookie card is out of this world. So you're just seeing a lot of equity in cardboard these days. And so for those that have been in this for a while, for me, I just got back in 18 months, 2 years ago. So, I didn't have a bunch of Kobe rookies and LeBron rookies and different things, and not even rookie cards, second year, third year cards. I mean, there's cards that are probably just sitting in boxes that people forgot about, and now they're like, wait a second, especially basketball cards. With how hot basketball cards are, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going through their stuff like, well, wait a second, where's all my Kobe stuff, and where is all my Michael Jordan stuff and LeBron stuff, because it's gone wild. And then you look at just kind of all of the rookies that came out of that 86 Fleer class. That's the big iconic basketball set is 86 Fleer. But I mean, if you're looking at John Stockton, there's Jordan, there's Olajuwon, there's Chris Mullin, there's just Barkley. There's a ton of rookies that came out of that 86 Fleer set that are Hall of Famers. And then you've got kind of those ancillary cards in those late 80s. I think once you kind of get into, 89, 90, then you're in some pretty heavy junk wax era print runs. But then you seg right into, Shaq rookies and, a lot of the guys that were playing in the early 90s. McGrady, and then you've got Kobe in 96, and it just kind of goes on from there. So if you're just looking over the last 30 years of basketball cards, 35 years, there's a lot of exciting, prospects that have been there. And that's not even getting into vintage stuff, which that has its own crowd. And, in a recent video I showed, I've got a Pete Maravich rookie. I've got some older basketball cards, so I really love the vintage stuff too. So, I mean, there's so many different buying opportunities. To me, that's where I say it depends on whether or not it's a buyer or seller's market, because to me, I can go on eBay every single day and I see buying opportunities. And part of that is the collector in me that just wants to see them. But there's also, to me, there's just, you can argue upside for a lot of different cards, for a lot of different players. And that's before you even get into, rookies or second year basketball players, or baseball prospects, or my gosh, Project 2020, with pricing sagging completely back on those, the huge pricing pullback on those, you do have to kind of wonder, is there, Is there the same upside from cards 100 through 400? Probably not as what you had from card 1 to card 80, let's just say. But, who really knows? Who knows what the print runs are going to do moving forward? The print runs have steadily come down on a lot of cards. We're back under 10,000. I saw in some of the newer Project 2020 cards. So people kind of act like they know everything about what's going on, but no one knows what's going to happen with this. You can't judge where that demand is going to come from. That's been the biggest moving target of sports card investing now. It's the hottest it's been since the late 80s, early 90s. But the hardest part that folks can't get, including myself, is where the demand is going next. And that's why you have people that are jumping into, soccer cards, tennis cards, Tiger Woods rookie cards. And it makes total sense because there's yes, you can look at trends and you can look at popular sets. And that's what we try to do on this channel. To gauge, different buying trends and different, areas where it could be a good opportunity to sell. But the reality is we're always we're chasing that. I mean, tomorrow, it could be Chronicles is the hot basketball set. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's my point is, nobody has any clue on it. So whether or not it's a buyer's market or a seller's market right now is certainly up for debate. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room is, when are we going to have sports back? There's so many variables as to why the sports card market has launched the way that it has, whether it be stimulus money from COVID. There's no sports, so sports bettors and fantasy football people are looking for different areas to put their money in, something different, to kind of feed that hobby, that they need. In sports, we're all sports addicts, for the most part. So it makes total sense. And so it's really going to be interesting to see, when are we going to get sports back, and which sports are we going to get back, and which players are going to show up to play? Because, as far as the leagues are concerned, they've kind of taken certainly a sensitive approach to what players want to do. Now, granted, they're not going to get paid if they don't show up, but there's a lot of players that are okay with that. So, it boils down to whether it's COVID or whether it's racial justice stuff that they're fighting for, or that they don't agree with as far as the CBAs go for the various leagues. There's so many variables. It's complete insanity, really. No one has a clue. And just to think about that, we could have a basketball playoffs where, I just did a video yesterday on, the players did a Zoom call. More than 80 NBA players, that's about 20% of the league, got on a Zoom call to discuss whether or not they want to move forward with the restart of the season the way that it's been presented by the league. They might need to renegotiate that. You might have some players that decide, hey, look, I'm standing up for what I believe, I'm not coming. And how does that shape, the playoffs? Because we as viewers, we don't know who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. And then, of course, that factors into which cards we're buying. Because for me and a lot of people, and I know this is the case just from talking to other collectors and other investors, a lot of the buying opportunities, or the transactional growth, has been the fact that, hey, look, there's no sports right now. This could represent a buying opportunity, because once sports come back, there's going to be a huge fervor. If these players, have a great game, if Jason Tatum pops off for 40 points, what is that going to do for cards? Because historically, over the last 12 months, I say historically because we're talking about a very short period of time. Over the last 12 months, you have seen that where a player has had a fantastic game and their cards double in price overnight. And then of course you have the excitement of playoff basketball coming, and you have the end of the season and who's going to be the champion. There's an assumption as to, that these cards are going to go up based on that. And so a lot of the transactions that you're seeing on eBay and elsewhere, from what I have heard from others, is, that's in anticipation of the league getting started back up. The way that it sits now, I know it's kind of, we talk about kind of doomsday scenarios for sports viewers, but if basketball doesn't come back, if players don't come back, or what is it going to look like if it's a watered down kind of end of the season where half the players don't show up to play, and we have kind of this weird champion that's championed, but like half the players didn't show up, so the games weren't competitive. Who knows what it's going to look like? And then does it mean that the whole CBA is torn up and they've got to restart, and then they've got to relook at everything? I think that there's just so many different things. Major League Baseball, I saw I read it. I just saw a headline. Granted, I saw a headline, so who knows? That could mean anything. But essentially, there was a portion of the players that it looked like they wanted to renegotiate or they weren't happy with terms. So what's going to happen for sports for the rest of this year? Because I think that just plays a major role in a lot of this. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out. And lastly, I'll kind of finish. The other kind of elephant in the room is just that demand has been at an all-time high since since the late 80s, early 90s. That's the last time that sports cards have gotten this much attention, as far as just the amount of people that have gotten involved and the amount of money kind of pouring into it. And then that also kind of begs the question as to whether or not Panini and Topps, if they're going to continue keeping print runs manageable, or if they're going to go off and just say, hey, like, we need to make our money. There's a shortage of supply to the demand, and we're going to start pumping it out. And I think that's going to be something that I'm really going to watch closely too over the next 12 months. Is the fact that young people are not really involved in this spike in interest. I mean, they can't go to to a Walmart or a Target and find Prism product, or they might be able to find some product, but a lot of those hot products, they're not able to find it unless they're going to maybe a hobby shop, and even then it's hard to find. It's very, very expensive. Gone are the days where young people can go to the grocery store and find packs of cards of the hot product. And so there's good and bad to that, but I think that's just an interesting element. Is a lot of the the growth in the hobby is through high schoolers, college kids, 20-somethings, and then it's the guys like me that are 35 to 50 years old that they've got that nostalgia factor. It's happy times from when they were kids, and they're getting back into it, and now they've got disposable income and they're getting back into it. And so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that holds up, and what does the return of sports, what it's going to look like, and if and when it does come back, how it's going to affect the supply demand game. So are there a lot of buying opportunities right now? I believe so. I believe that there's a lot of buying opportunities. Are there going to be even more buying opportunities if there's no NBA season? Yeah, I think there's going to be more buying opportunities. I'm kind of curious to see if it remains red hot, if they don't finish out the season, or if it's a very watered down ending to the season. Does the NBA as a whole take a hit from it? Does the NBA fandom to say like, what, we're just gonna move on to? I mean, of course, people are gonna love basketball, but it reaches a point where they might say, what, I'm gonna get more into football, or I'm gonna, if I can't watch it on TV, I'm gonna watch what I can watch, hockey or football or whatever is available, soccer. So it's a wild time. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this too. Is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market in your mind? And which markets are we talking about? Because it's a very general question. You could think that one market is a buyer's market and one market is a seller's market. And like I said, for the long-time collectors and investors in this stuff, it's a big seller's market when they've been buying it for pennies on the dollar. And so those folks are going to say like, hey, I've got a ton of equity, in my stuff right now, and maybe they are thinking to sell, especially when you see something like, Project 2020 happen, where you've got a huge surge in demand, and then it pulls back and pricing just snaps back, where it was the fastest rising set as far as, equity in a set goes. As far as cards, sports cards in general, ever. And then it just snapped back to where, and now it's, way back down to earth, and who knows where it's going to go from here. So it's a really interesting set. All of this stuff is really interesting. It's a fascinating case study, whether you're into sports card investing or not into it. So I'm curious just to see how it goes. But I want to hear from you guys. Please comment below as to your thoughts. And I look forward to hearing from you, and we will see you again soon. Take care, guys.